Hello, everyone. Welcome to another week of Introduction to Human Rights. As always, I'll give a recap on last week's topic and introduce your task for this coming week. So, this past week, we looked at the issue of the environment as a human right and sort of identifying environmental issues through a human rights lens. You did some reading in the Haas textbook about the history of considering environmental issues through a human rights lens, and also about different philosophical approaches to balancing environmental issues with concerns of human development. Then I shared you some articles about the Green New Deal and the text of the Green New Deal and asked you to stake out a position. So a slight majority of you adopted the position that the Green New Deal is a well-intentioned proposal to combat the negative impact of climate change, but that it is unrealistic and not likely to accomplish any change. One, I think, kind of clearly endorsed the argument of that the Green New Deal could actually limit human rights with some of its overtly aggressive proposal inclusions, and then a few of you did endorse the position that the Green New Deal is a bold proposal that will promote human rights by prohibiting the negative impacts of climate change. So I appreciate each of you sort of clearly identifying which argument you were going to take and then laying out some evidence in support of your argument. So I think y'all did a good job of that. And y'all brought up very interesting points from the article across the board, both about the potential benefits of the program, the extensive costs of the program, and how human rights relate to the Green New Deal. So you brought up issues of the right to health with the healthcare proposals that are in the Green New Deal, as well as the right to health by extension of if the plan leads to a better environment, then that will lead to better human health. Talked about the right to education with the educational proposals in there, the right to employment that relate to the employment issues. And then those of you who thought it was unrealistic or a negative idea for human rights brought up issues particularly around property rights and how the Green New Deal, with its mandates on updated buildings, certain transportation methods, would essentially require the government removing citizens' private property in order to meet these goals of zero emissions and fully updated buildings. So again, I think you all did a good job of bringing in those arguments. And to me, that raises an important question for you to consider in this class, and as you examine human rights issues on your own after this class, is there will be many times where there can be two competing human rights principles or issues. So for example, in the Green New Deal, in advance of the right to health and the right to employment, it has aggressive targets about guaranteed federal jobs for all who want them, for zero emission vehicles, and those proposals in support of a right to health and a right to employment would clearly butt up against the right to private property, the right to own private property. So the question is, when there are two human rights that are in conflict with one another in a particular issue, how does one decide which one is more important, which one deserves a greater merit? And there's no guidelines within the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that outlines that. And that is really where these different philosophical approaches that Haas talked about in the textbook come into play. And the philosophical outlook that you have will really determine, in these complex situations where you have competing human rights principles, where you give precedence, how you choose sort of one over the other. So a lot of you who said the Green New Deal is A good proposal that will advance human rights cited ecocentrism, or really an emphasis on environmental justice and the health of the environment in order to benefit all mankind as your guiding principle for that argument. Those of you who said the Green New Deal is well-intentioned but unrealistic, I think almost all of you, if not all of you, cited utilitarianism. So doing the greatest good for the greatest number, trying to find a balance between mitigating these potential impacts of global climate change, but also not wrecking the economy or confiscating people's private property in order to accomplish that goal. So finding a balance that will lead to the most optimal result for the greatest number of people. The other philosophies that I didn't see any of you cite were econocentrism, so sort of a philosophy that economic development and the benefits that brings to humans should trump all other considerations. And, if there's some negative environmental impacts, so be it. People have the right to enjoy the higher standard of living, higher technological advances of healthcare and communications. So if you had adopted a really anti-Green New Deal, that probably would have been your central guiding point. But again, great job discussing the points. I'm glad that you read the various articles and were able to sort of form an opinion for yourself on this issue, because I think that the Green New Deal will really be a centerpiece of the 2020 elections in this country. You've already seen, most Democratic presidential candidates have been put on the spot for, do you support it or do you not? Some have wholeheartedly supported it. Some have said they support the idea of a Green New Deal, not necessarily this particular version of it. And then others have yet to comment, but certainly this proposal and the various issues that are included in it will be centered to upcoming elections here in the United States. So with that, we'll turn to this coming week. We have 1 week before spring break, and your human rights case study essay and oral presentation, which is a major assignment, is due on March 17th. So with that, I'm going to adjust the syllabus a little bit. There will be no module and no blog post due next Wednesday. Essentially, I'm just going to give you additional time to do the research, the writing, and recording your video for the human rights case study. So I hope you use that time wisely, because I will definitely be looking for a high-quality product on that assignment. You have the rubric and the assignment guidelines on Canvas. And I also just want to repeat my earlier offer that if you would like to submit a draft of your essay to me by midnight on March 10th, so that's this Sunday, I will read it and provide you some written feedback by Tuesday, March 12th. So that you can incorporate that feedback, hopefully for a better finished product and therefore a higher grade by the 17th. So again, use this time to really work on that human rights case study essay and oral presentation assignment. If you have any questions or concerns or anything's unclear about the assignment, please call me or email me. I'm happy to talk with you about it. And again, if you would like some written feedback on a draft of your essay, send it to me by midnight on March 10th. And with that, I hope you have a great rest of your week.